The USS Liberty moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain Jake Morrison walked around the bridge checking on his crew. They had been out here for 3 months, looking for new worlds that humans might want to visit someday. The ship was not very big. Only 200 people lived and worked on it. Jake liked being out here in the quiet. Earth was far behind them now. Out here, there were no politicians telling him what to do, no reporters asking stupid questions. Just him, his crew, and the endless stars. Amy Parker sat at her computer watching for anything unusual. She was good at her job, better than most people twice her age. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she checked the sensors. "Captain," she said suddenly, "I'm seeing something strange." Jake walked over to her station. "What is it?" "Ships, lots of them. They're big and they're coming toward us fast." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. The Liberty was not built for fighting. It had some guns, but they were small. If these ships wanted trouble, his crew was in danger. "How many ships?" he asked. 20, maybe more. They'll be here in about 10 minutes. Jake pressed a button on his chair. His voice went to every part of the ship. "All crew, this is the captain. Unknown ships are coming toward us. Get ready for possible trouble. This is not a practice drill." Red light started flashing. People ran through the hallways, going to their jobs. Everyone knew what to do. They had practiced this many times, but nobody thought it would really happen. The alien ships appeared on the big screen at the front of the bridge. They were huge, much bigger than the Liberty. Their metal hulls were dark green with bright symbols painted on the sides. Jake had never seen ships like these before. Lisa Grant worked at the communication station. "Captain, they want to talk to us." "Put them through." The screen changed. An alien face looked at them. It had blue skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp white teeth. When it spoke, the computer changed its words into English. "Human ship, turn off your engines. We are coming aboard. Do not fight us. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We rule this part of space." Jake stood up straight. "This is Captain Morrison. We are explorers. We don't want any trouble." The alien made a sound like laughing, but it was not friendly. "What you want does not matter. You are in our space now. Your people will work for us." "I don't think so," Jake said quietly. The alien's 4 eyes got narrow. "You think your little ship can fight the Empire? We have ruled the stars for 3,000 years. Your weapons are toys to us." Jake looked at Ryan Brooks, his weapons officer. Ryan was a big man with scars on his hands from old fights. He nodded at Jake. "Let's see about that," Jake said. The first alien ship fired blue beams of light at the Liberty. The ship shook when the beams hit, but the protective shields held. Jake was surprised. He thought the shields would break right away. "Fire back," Jake ordered. The Liberty's guns shot red beams at the alien ship. The beams hit the alien shields and went right through them. They burned holes in the ship's hull. Pieces of metal flew off into space. The alien on the screen looked shocked. "That cannot be. Your primitive weapons should not hurt our ships." More alien ships attacked. The Liberty spun and turned, dodging most of their shots. Every time the human ship fired back, it hit hard. One alien ship blew up completely. Another one stopped working and floated dead in space. Down in the Marine section, Danny Walsh was getting his soldiers ready. Danny was not a big man, but he was tough. His soldiers trusted him because he had kept them alive in many fights. "Listen to me," he told his Marines. "These aliens think they can just walk onto our ship and take it. What do we say to that?" "Hell, no," the Marines shouted. "That's right. We're going to teach them not to mess with humans." The Marines were special soldiers. They were trained to fight anywhere, on planets, in space, inside enemy ships. Their armor was thick and black. Their guns were designed to kill things that regular bullets might not stop. 3 alien ships attached themselves to the Liberty. Alien soldiers began cutting holes in the hull with bright torches. They expected to find scared humans hiding and crying. Instead, they found Danny Walsh and his Marines waiting with loaded guns. The aliens were tall and skinny. Each one had 4 arms and carried energy weapons. But when they saw the Marines in their black armor, they stopped moving. The humans looked like death machines. "Welcome to our ship," Danny said, raising his rifle. "Too bad you won't be leaving." The fight was terrible. The aliens had better weapons, but the humans fought like wild animals. Marines threw bombs that exploded in fire. When their guns stopped working, they used knives. Some fought with their bare hands, grabbing aliens and breaking their bones. Kelly Foster picked up an alien soldier and threw him so hard against the wall that the metal bent. Steve Murphy shot 3 aliens with one burst from his gun before they could react. The aliens started running away. They had never fought enemies like this. Most people in the galaxy gave up when they were outnumbered. These humans seemed to get more dangerous when things got bad. On the bridge, Jake watched his crew work together perfectly. Amy tracked every enemy ship. Lisa blocked their radio messages. Ryan shot the guns with perfect aim, hitting target after target. But there were too many alien ships. The Liberty's shields finally broke. Enemy fire started making holes in the hull. Smoke filled some of the rooms. Jake knew his ship could not win. "Captain," Lisa said, "the alien commander wants to talk again." The alien face came back on the screen. This time it looked different. Not so confident. More worried. "Human captain, your ship fights better than we expected, but you cannot win against 20 ships. Give up now, and we will not kill your crew." Jake looked around his bridge. His people were hurt and tired, but they were still fighting. Some had blood on their faces. All of them were ready to keep fighting until they died. "What happens if we don't give up?" Jake asked. "Then everyone on your ship dies." Jake thought hard. He could keep fighting and watch all his people die, or he could surrender and maybe save their lives. It was not really a choice at all. "We surrender," he said. The alien smiled, showing all those sharp teeth. "You fought well for primitives. The Empire can use warriors like you." As alien soldiers came aboard the Liberty, Jake whispered to Lisa, "Send a message to Earth, tell them what happened. Tell them the aliens are coming and they're dangerous." Lisa nodded and quietly sent the message while the aliens were busy. The message would take months to reach Earth, but it would get there. Eventually, the crew of the Liberty became prisoners that day, but they had learned something important. The aliens could be hurt, their ships could be destroyed, and they had not expected humans to fight so hard. Admiral Vex Tar read the reports from the battle. 3 of his ships were badly damaged. 1 was completely destroyed. Over 500 of his soldiers were dead or wounded. All this damage from one small human ship with only 200 people. He sent a message back to the Empire's leaders. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought. When we attack their homeworld, we will need many more ships. Many, many more ships." 6 months passed after the Liberty was captured. Deep in the Empire's capital city, Grand Marshal Kethavor stood in front of a huge war room. The walls showed maps of the galaxy with thousands of stars marked in different colors. Red stars belonged to the Empire. Blue stars were enemies. Yellow stars were targets to conquer. Earth was marked in yellow. "The human homeworld must be taken quickly," Kethavor told his commanders. "The prisoners from their ship have told us interesting things. These humans breed fast and learn faster. If we wait too long, they might become a real threat." "Admiral So?" Fexter stepped forward. He still felt angry about losing ships to one small human vessel. "Sir, I recommend we use overwhelming force. 500 ships and 2 million soldiers should be enough to crush them completely." The other commanders looked impressed. 500 ships was a huge fleet. The Empire had not used that many ships together in over 200 years. It was 15% of their entire military. "Do we really need so many ships for one primitive planet?" asked General Thaxon. Vextar's 4 eyes flashed with anger. "You did not see how they fought. These humans do not surrender easily. They would rather die than give up. We must hit them so hard that resistance is impossible." Kethavor nodded slowly. "Very well. Prepare the fleet. We will end this human problem before it grows." 3 months later, the massive Zephyrian fleet reached Earth's solar system. The blue and green planet looked peaceful floating in the darkness. Small ships moved between Earth and its moon. Space stations orbited the planet like metal rings. On Earth, General Patricia Hayes stood in the command center of Cheyenne Mountain. She was 50 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. Around her, officers worked at computer screens showing the approaching alien fleet. "How many ships?" she asked. 500 confirmed, said Colonel Steve Murphy. "Maybe more behind them. They're not trying to hide." Patricia rubbed her forehead. She had been waiting for this day since Jake Morrison's message arrived. The government had asked her to prepare Earth's defenses, but there had not been much time or money. "What do we have to fight them with?" she asked. Commander Amy Carter read from her clipboard. 50,000 personnel total. Most are reservists and volunteers. We have 30 converted cargo ships with weapons attached, 20 armed space stations, some missile batteries on the moon. Patricia looked out the window at the mountains. Somewhere up there, 500 alien warships were coming to destroy her world. Down here, she had 50,000 people with makeshift weapons. "Send a message to the fleet," she said. "Tell them we want to talk." The message went out to the lead alien ship. Grand Marshal Kethfor himself was commanding the invasion fleet. When he received the human message, he laughed. "They want to negotiate," he told his officers. "Primitives always think they can talk, their way out of conquest." He ordered the communications officer to reply. The human leader appeared on his screen. She looked tired and scared. "I am General Hayes of Earth Defense Command," she said. "Your ships are not welcome here. Leave our system immediately." Kethfor smiled with all his sharp teeth. "I am Grand Marshal Kethfor of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your planet now. Resistance will only make your deaths more painful." Patricia Hayes looked directly at him. "We will not surrender. Earth will defend itself." "With what?" Kethfor asked. "We count only 50 small ships and a few space stations. Do you think these toys can stop 500 warships?" "We'll find out," Patricia said, and cut the connection. Kethfor was impressed despite himself. This human female had courage even if she was foolish. "Begin the attack. Target their ships first, then the space stations." The battle began badly for the humans. The converted cargo ships were slow and their weapons were weak. The alien ships moved like sharks through water, fast and deadly. Blue energy beams cut through human ships like they were made of paper. But the humans fought with the same fury they had shown on the Liberty. Captain Nick Torres commanded a converted freighter called the New York. When alien fighters attacked his ship, he rammed his vessel into them, destroying 3 enemy fighters, before his own ship exploded. On Space Station Alpha, Commander Beth Rodriguez kept firing her guns even after half her station was destroyed. Her weapons were small, but she aimed for the alien ship's engines and weapon systems. She managed to damage 2 alien cruisers before her station was finally destroyed. The humans used tricks the aliens did not expect. Major Chris Davis flew, modified civilian aircraft that looked harmless but carried powerful missiles. His pilots would pretend to run away, then suddenly turn and attack when the aliens got close. Colonel Tom Bradley had hidden missile batteries inside fake buildings, on the moon. When alien ships came close to the lunar surface, the buildings opened up and missiles flew out. The aliens lost 12 ships before they figured out what was happening, but there were too many alien ships. One by one, the human defenses fell. The space stations were destroyed. The converted cargo ships were blown apart. The missile batteries ran out of ammunition. After 6 hours of fighting, General Hayes knew the battle was lost. Half her people were dead. The surviving ships were badly damaged. The aliens still had over 400 ships left. "Send the surrender signal," she ordered. The fighting stopped. Grand Marshal Kethfor looked at the reports from his fleet commanders. The humans had fought harder than expected. They had destroyed 60 alien ships and damaged many more. Over 10,000 Empire soldiers were dead, but they had won. The human homeworld was theirs. "Excellent," Kethfor said. "Begin landing troops. Set up command centers in their major cities. Round up their military leaders for questioning." As our alien ships began landing on Earth, Patricia Hayes gathered her surviving officers in the command bunker. "The invasion is over," she told them. "We fought as hard as we could, but we were outnumbered 10 to 1. Now we have to survive under occupation and wait for a chance to fight back. Colonel Steve Murphy looked angry. General, we had more people we could have used. The regular army, the Navy, the Air Force, why didn't we call them in? Patricia looked around the room at her tired officers. These were good people who had just watched their world be conquered. They deserved to know the truth, because this was never meant to be our real defense, she said quietly. This was meant to make the aliens think they had won completely. The real military is still out there hiding and waiting. The officers looked confused. Commander Amy Carter spoke up. What do you mean, General? Patricia walked to a computer terminal and typed in a secret code. The screen showed a map of the solar system. Dozens of red dots appeared around Jupiter, Saturn, and in the asteroid belt. Those are our real military bases, Patricia said. Hidden stations with real warships and trained soldiers. The aliens think they just defeated Earth's entire military. They have no idea that we have 3 million soldiers and 2,000 warships waiting for the right moment to strike back. Colonel Murphy's eyes went wide. You mean we let them invade us on purpose? Not exactly, Patricia said. We knew we couldn't stop 500 ships with what we had here. So we made them think this was all we had. Now they'll get comfortable and spread their forces thin across the planet. That's when we hit them with everything we really have. Lieutenant Colonel Nick Torres, who had escaped from the space battle in a damaged fighter, stepped forward. When do we start the real fight? Patricia smiled for the first time in months. Soon, very soon. The aliens are about to learn that what they saw today wasn't Earth's army. It was just the opening act. High above Earth, Grand Marshal Keith Vore stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the conquered planet. Blue oceans and white clouds made it look peaceful and beautiful. Send a message to High Command, he ordered. Tell them Earth has fallen. The human military has been completely destroyed. We are beginning occupation procedures. He did not know that in hidden bases throughout the solar system, the real Earth military was preparing for war. Admiral Kevin Scott checked his ship's weapons. Captain Mary Johnson reviewed attack plans with her officers. General Frank Cooper briefed his assault troops. The aliens thought the war was over. The humans knew it was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the aliens took over Earth. Grand Marshal Keith Vore stood in his new headquarters in New York City, looking out at the conquered planet. The humans seemed to accept their defeat. They went to work in the factories the Yao Empire had built. They followed the new laws. They did not cause trouble. But something was wrong. Every day, small things went wrong. A supply truck would disappear on a lonely road. A communication tower would stop working during the night. Alien soldiers on patrol would be found dead in the morning with no sign of who killed them. Report. Vore ordered his intelligence. Officer. Captain Zarthek stepped forward with a datapad. Another convoy was attacked last night, sir. 3 trucks carrying weapons to our base in Denver. All the guards were killed. The weapons are gone. Vore felt angry. How many attacks is that this week? 15, sir. And that's just the ones we know about. Who is doing this? I thought we destroyed their military. Zarthek looked uncomfortable. We believe it is small groups of humans working together. They seem to know our patrol routes and supply schedules. Someone is coordinating these attacks. In a hidden basement under a destroyed building in Chicago, Sergeant Danny Walsh cleaned his rifle. Around him, 20 other humans worked on their weapons and equipment. They were not the same people who had fought in the space battle 6 months ago. These were different humans. Danny had been a Marine before the invasion, but not the kind who fought in space. He had been what humans called a weekend warrior, someone who trained with the military on weekends while working a regular job during the week. When the aliens invaded, Danny had been fixing cars at his garage. Now he was leading a resistance cell against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Listen up, people, Danny said to his group. Tonight we hit the fuel depot outside the city. Intelligence says they only have 20 guards. We go in fast, plant the bombs, and get out before reinforcements arrive. A woman named Kelly Foster raised her hand. She had been a police officer before the invasion. What about civilians in the area? Already evacuated, Danny replied. Tom's people made sure the area is clear. Tom Bradley sat in the corner, working on a small radio. Before the invasion, he had been an engineer who designed bridges. Now, he built bombs and communication devices for the resistance. His hands were steady as he attached wires to a small explosive device. "This will take out their main fuel tanks," Tom said. "Should set them back at least a week." The resistance fighters were an unusual mix of people. Some had military training, but many did not. There was Chris Davis, who had been a commercial pilot, Beth Rodriguez, who had worked for a phone company, Nick Torres, who had been a mechanic. All of them had learned to fight after the aliens arrived. They had to learn because the aliens kept asking questions that made no sense. During the day, Beth worked at a factory making parts for alien machines. The alien supervisor often talked to the human workers, trying to understand their society. "Your military was very small," the alien had said one day. "Only 50,000 soldiers. How did such a small force protect your entire planet?" Beth had looked confused, which was not hard to fake. "I don't know much about military stuff. My brother was in something called the National Guard, but that was just part-time." The alien had made notes. "National Guard? What is this?" "Citizens who train as soldiers on weekends," Beth explained. "They have regular jobs too. My brother sold insurance during the week and played soldier on weekends." The alien looked puzzled. "How many humans are in this National Guard?" Beth shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe a few thousand. There's also something called reserves, but I think that's different." These conversations happened all over Earth. Aliens would ask humans about their military, and humans would give confusing answers. They talked about reserves, National Guard, different branches of service, retired soldiers, veterans. The numbers never seemed to add up. Captain Zarthek brought these reports to his commander. "Sir, the humans seem to have had more military personnel than we thought. They speak of reserves, guards, multiple service branches. Our prisoners from the space battle mentioned relatives in other military units." Grand Marshal Kethvor studied the reports. "How many more could there be?" "It's hard to say, sir. The humans give different answers. Some say thousands, others say millions. Their military system is confusing." Millions. Kethvor felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "That cannot be right. We only fought 50,000. "Yes, sir. But they keep mentioning people who were not in the battle. Brothers in the Army, fathers who used to be Marines, cousins in something called the Air Force." Meanwhile, the resistance attacks were getting more sophisticated. In California, Major Chris Davis led a group that had captured alien aircraft. They had figured out how to fly the alien fighters and use them against their former owners. Chris had been flying passenger planes before the invasion. The alien aircraft were different, but the basic principles were the same. His group would attack alien convoys using their own stolen fighters, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. In Texas, Colonel Sandra Phillips coordinated resistance activities across the entire southern part of the continent. She had been a logistics officer in the reserves, managing supplies and equipment on weekends while working as a business manager during the week. Now she used those same skills to coordinate weapons, ammunition, and personnel for dozens of resistance cells. She knew how to move supplies without being detected, how to communicate without being intercepted, and how to make a small force look bigger than it really was. The aliens were getting frustrated. Every time they thought they had found all the resistance fighters in an area, new ones would appear. They would capture one group, only to discover that the prisoners had family members in other military units they had never heard of. "Sir?" Captain Zarthek reported to Grand Marshal Kethvor. "We have a problem. The humans we captured yesterday claim to be from something called the Marine Corps Reserve. They say this is different from the Marines we fought during the invasion." Kethvor felt confused. "How many different military groups do these humans have?" "We're not sure, sir. They mention Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, Army Reserve, Navy Reserve, Air Force Reserve, Marine Reserve. Some talk about something called Special Forces. Others mention units with numbers like 1st Infantry Division or 82nd Airborne. Are these all different armies?" "We don't know, sir. The humans give conflicting information. Some say they're all part of one military. Others say they're separate. Some claim to be retired but still trained. It makes no sense. Grand Marshal Kethvor stood up and walked to the window. Down in the street, humans went about their daily business under alien guard. They looked defeated and harmless. But somewhere out there, resistance fighters were planning the next attack. Double the patrols, he ordered. Increase security around all supply depots. And find out exactly how many military personnel these humans really had. That night, Danny Walsh's team successfully destroyed the fuel depot. As they escaped into the darkness, Danny smiled grimly. The aliens still had no idea what they were really dealing with. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, the real Earth military continued to prepare. Admiral Kevin Scott reviewed intelligence reports from the resistance cells. General Frank Cooper planned large-scale operations. Captain Mary Johnson trained her crews for the battles to come. The aliens thought they were fighting scattered groups of weekend warriors and civilians playing soldier. They had no idea that Earth's actual military, 3 million trained soldiers with modern weapons and warships, was still out there, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Grand Marshal Kethvor went to sleep that night thinking he was dealing with a minor rebellion. He did not know that he was about to discover just how badly he had underestimated the humans. 1 year after the invasion, Grand Marshal Kethvor was having trouble sleeping. The resistance attacks were getting worse every week. His forces controlled the cities, but the countryside belonged to the humans. Supply convoys needed heavy guard, escorts. Communication towers had to be rebuilt constantly. Fuel depots were blown up faster than they could be repaired. Something was very wrong, but he could not figure out what. "Sir?" Captain Zarthek entered the command room with another stack of reports. "We lost 3 more patrols last night, and the humans destroyed the main power plant in Seattle." Kethvor slammed his fist on the desk. "How? We have 2 million soldiers on this planet. How can scattered rebels cause so much damage?" Before Zarthek could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the building. Red lights flashed on every wall. A voice spoke over the intercom in the alien language. "Alert! Alert! Command center under attack." Explosions shook the building. Through the windows, Kethvor could see human aircraft attacking his headquarters. But these were not the stolen alien fighters the Resistance had been using. These were human-built ships with different designs and more powerful weapons. The main door to the command room exploded inward. Smoke filled the air. Through the smoke came human soldiers in black armor carrying advanced weapons. Their leader removed his helmet, revealing a familiar face. "Hello, Marshal," said Captain Jake Morrison. "Remember me?" Kethvor could not believe what he was seeing. You were captured. You should be in a prison camp." Jake smiled coldly. "I was never captured. That was my twin brother, John Morrison. He volunteered to take my place so I could escape and report back to Fleet Command." More human soldiers filled the room, their weapons pointed at the alien officers. These were not resistance fighters with makeshift equipment. These were professional military personnel with the best gear humanity could build. "How is this possible?" Kethvor demanded. "We destroyed your military. We saw your ships burn. Your soldiers are dead." "Those weren't our military ships," Jake said. "Those were civilian cargo vessels with guns attached. The people you fought were mostly reservists, weekend warriors, and volunteers. Our real military was never on Earth." Captain Zarthek spoke up. "But the prisoners told us about your military structure. 50,000 personnel. We counted your ships." Jake laughed. "You counted what we wanted you to count. Tell me, Captain, when your prisoners talked about the National Guard, what did you think they meant? Part-time soldiers, citizens who play at being warriors. Close, but not quite right. The National Guard is made up of trained soldiers who usually work civilian jobs but can be called to active duty. And when they said 50,000 personnel, they meant just the people who were actually on Earth at the time." Kethvor felt a terrible coldness growing in his stomach. "Where are the rest?" "Everywhere else," Jake said. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "Sandra, you're clear to broadcast." The large screen in the command room flickered to life. A human woman in military uniform appeared. Behind her, Kethvor could see the bridge of a massive warship. "This is Admiral Sandra Phillips of the United Earth Space Command," she said. "Marshal Kethvor, your invasion force is now surrounded." Through the windows, Kethvor saw his worst nightmare becoming real. Huge human warships were appearing out of nowhere, their stealth systems shutting down to reveal themselves. They had been hiding in the solar system for over a year, waiting for this moment. The ships were bigger than anything the Empire had built. Their hulls were dark metal with sleek lines. Weapons ports opened along their sides like the eyes of giant metal beasts. "This is impossible," Kethvor whispered. "We monitored your communications. We studied your technology. You are a primitive species." Admiral Phillips smiled on the screen. "We let you think that. Every signal you intercepted was fake. Every technology sample you found was decades old. We've been planning for this day since we first detected your empire 5 years ago." Jake Morrison stepped closer to Kethvor. "The Liberty wasn't exploring, Marshal. It was a spy mission. We knew you were out there. We knew you would eventually come to Earth. So we prepared. The 50,000 people you fought during the invasion were volunteers," Admiral Phillips continued. "Their job was to make you think you had won completely. Meanwhile, our real military was building bases throughout the solar system and beyond." More faces appeared on the screen. Admiral Kevin Scott from the USS Defiance, Captain Mary Johnson from the USS Retribution, General Frank Cooper from the Orbital Assault Command, dozens of other officers commanding the most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled. "How many ships?" Kethvor asked, his voice barely a whisper. 2,000 combat vessels," Admiral Phillips replied. 3 million trained military personnel. And that's just what we have in the solar system. Captain Zarthek dropped his weapon. 3 million? But the prisoners said... "The prisoners told you about their relatives in the military," Jake explained. "Brothers in the Army, fathers who were Marines, cousins in the Air Force. You thought they were talking about small numbers because you didn't understand our military system. Your empire has been fighting weekend warriors and civilians for the past year," Admiral Phillips said. "Our real soldiers have been watching from hidden bases, learning everything about your tactics, your weapons, your weaknesses." On the screen behind Admiral Phillips, tactical displays showed the current military situation. 500 Zephyrian ships were spread across Earth's solar system, most of them in orbit around the planet. 2,000 human warships had them completely surrounded. "Your ships are outnumbered 4-1, Admiral Phillips announced. "Your ground forces are cut off from resupply. Your communication networks have been infiltrated by our intelligence services for months. Surrender now, and your people will be treated according to the laws of war." Grand Marshal Kethvor looked around the command room. His officers were staring at the screens in shock and fear. Through the windows, he could see his mighty invasion fleet looking small and helpless next to the massive human warships. "But why?" he asked. "Why let us invade at all? You could have destroyed us when we arrived." Jake Morrison answered. "Because we needed to study you. We needed to learn how you fight, how you think, how your technology works. One human ship against 20 aliens taught us something important. You're not as advanced as you pretend to be. You've been bullying primitive species for so long that you forgot how to fight a real war." The resistance attacks weren't just harassment, Admiral Phillips added. They were intelligence-gathering operations. Every convoy you lost, every patrol that disappeared, every base that was destroyed, all of it gave us information about your capabilities and weaknesses. The truth hit Kethvor like a physical blow. The entire occupation had been a trap. While his forces were spread across Earth, dealing with what they thought were scattered rebels, the humans had been surrounding them with overwhelming military power. Your empire sent 15% of its total fleet to conquer what you thought was a primitive world, Admiral Phillips continued. That fleet is now our prisoner. Your government will have some interesting decisions to make. Captain Zarthek looked at his commander. "Sir, what are your orders?" Kethvor stared at the screen showing human warships filling the space around Earth. His invasion force, which had seemed so powerful a year ago, was now trapped and helpless. "Signal all ships," he said quietly. "Prepare to surrender." As alien ships across the solar system began shutting down their weapons and raising white flags, Jake Morrison smiled grimly. "Marshall, you asked the wrong question a year ago. You asked if our little ship could fight the Empire. You should have asked if that little ship was all we had." The revelation was complete. The Zephyrian Empire had not conquered Earth. They had walked into the greatest military trap in galactic history. The surrender of Grand Marshal Kethavor's fleet sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian Empire. In the capital city of Zephyr Prime, Emperor Thalandar received the news with disbelief and rage. "What do you mean they surrendered?" he screamed at his communications officer. "Kethavor commanded 500 warships and 2 million soldiers." "Yes, Your Majesty," the officer replied nervously. "But the humans had 2,000 ships waiting for them. They were completely surrounded." The Emperor's 4 eyes blazed with fury. "Impossible. Our intelligence said these humans were primitives, Stone Age savages with barely any technology." High Admiral Zexhan stepped forward. He was the Empire's top military commander and had served for over 40 years. "Your Majesty, it appears our intelligence was wrong. These humans are far more advanced than we believed." "Then we will send more ships," the Emperor declared. "Gather the entire fleet, every ship we have. We will crush these upstart humans and rescue our forces." "Your Majesty," Admiral Zexhan said carefully, "perhaps we should negotiate. If they can hide 2,000 ships from our sensors, they might have even more we don't know about." The Emperor struck the Admiral across the face with one of his 4 arms. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. No single planet has ever defeated us." Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Admiral Sandra Phillips stood on the bridge of her flagship, the USS Constitution. Around her, human fleet commanders were coordinating the largest military operation in Earth's history. "Admiral," said Captain Mary Johnson from the USS Retribution, "we're receiving multiple distress calls from the Empire's other territories. It seems some of their subject worlds are starting to rebel." Sandra smiled. "Good. When word spreads that their invincible fleet was defeated, other species will realize the Empire can be beaten." General Frank Cooper appeared on the main screen from his command ship. "Sandra, my intelligence teams have been analyzing the captured alien technology. These ships are impressive, but they're built for fighting weak opponents. Their shields can't handle sustained fire from multiple directions." "What about their weapons?" Sandra asked. "Powerful, but slow to recharge. They're designed for quick victories against enemies who surrender easily. In a long fight against equal opponents, they're at a disadvantage." Admiral Kevin Scott's voice came over the communication system from the USS Defiance. "Admiral, we're detecting a massive fleet approaching from the Empire's home territory. Over 1,500 ships heading this way at maximum speed." Sandra felt her pulse quicken. This was what they had been preparing for. "How long until they arrive?" 6 weeks, ma'am." "Perfect," Sandra said. "That gives us time to spring our next surprise." She pressed a button on her command chair. "Dr. Rachel Kim, please report to the bridge." Dr. Kim arrived a few minutes later, carrying a data pad filled with technical information. She was a small woman with bright eyes who had spent the past year studying captured alien technology. "Doctor, are your modifications ready?" Sandra asked. "Yes, Admiral. We've upgraded all our ships with improved weapons and shields based on alien technology, but we've also added some surprises they won't expect." "Such as?" Dr. Kim smiled. "Adaptive, shielding that learns from enemy weapon patterns, missiles that can change direction after being fired, and something we call ghost signatures, false sensor readings that make one ship look like 10 ships." Admiral Sandra Phillips turned to address all her fleet commanders on the communication network. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Empire is sending their main fleet to rescue their invasion force. They think they're dealing with one planet's military. It's time to show them just how wrong they are." Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding his own ship, the USS Liberty II, spoke up. "Admiral, what about the other human fleets? Are they ready?" "Check your long-range sensors, Captain." Jake looked at his sensor officer, who ran a deep space scan. The young woman's eyes went wide. Captain, I'm reading massive fleets approaching from multiple directions, ships with human signatures. On the main screen, Admiral Sandra Phillips showed a tactical display of the entire solar system. Red dots represented the trapped Zephyrian fleet. Blue dots showed the human ships that had been hiding near Earth. But now green dots were appearing at the edges of the display. Lots of green dots. Fleet Alpha is approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri, Sandra announced. Admiral Robert Lee commanding 800 ships. Fleet Beta is coming from the Tau Ceti system. Admiral Lisa Turner commanding 600 ships. Fleet Gamma is arriving from our bases near Proxima Centauri. General Paul Martin commanding 1,000 ships. The alien prisoners in the command center stared at the display in horror. Green dots kept appearing as more human fleets entered the solar system. The numbers kept climbing. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 ships. Grand Marshal Kethvor, who was being held under guard, could barely speak. How many fleets do you have? 7 major fleets plus dozens of smaller task forces, Sandra replied. We've been building bases and shipyards throughout this region of space for the past 5 years. While your empire was busy conquering primitive worlds, we were preparing for the day you found Earth. Captain Zarthek looked at the tactical display showing over 5,000 human warships now filling Earth's solar system. But this is impossible. No single world could build so many ships. You're right, Sandra said. No single world could do this, but Earth isn't alone anymore. The main screen changed to show representatives from a dozen different species. Aliens with different skin colors, different numbers of eyes, different body shapes, but all of them wore human-style military uniforms. Meet our allies, Sandra explained. Species that your empire conquered or threatened over the past 1,000 years. We found them, freed them, and taught them how to fight back. They've been building ships and training soldiers in secret bases hidden throughout the galaxy. One of the alien representatives spoke. He had green skin and 6 arms. The Empire destroyed my homeworld 50 years ago. My people have been waiting for revenge ever since. Another alien, this one with purple skin and 3 eyes, added, The Empire enslaved my species for 2 centuries. We will fight until every Zephyrian ship is destroyed. Grand Marshal Kethvor realized the terrible truth. You've been planning this for years. The Liberty's mission, the invasion, our defeat, all of it was part of a larger plan. Not just years, Sandra corrected. Decades. Humanity discovered the Empire's existence 60 years ago, when one of your scout ships was detected near our outer colonies. We've been preparing ever since. The communication system activated with an urgent message. Admiral Phillips, this is Admiral Karen Brown aboard the USS Vengeance. The Empire's main fleet has arrived at the edge of the solar system. 1,500 ships, just like intelligence predicted. Sandra stood up from her command chair. Signal all fleets. Execute Operation Freedom. Across the solar system, thousands of human and allied ships began moving into attack formation. The Zephyrian reinforcement fleet, led by High Admiral Zexhan himself, suddenly found themselves facing not 2,000 ships, but over 6,000. High Admiral Zexhan stared at his sensors in disbelief. Signal the fleet. All ships retreat. Immediately. But it was too late. Human ships had appeared behind them, cutting off their escape route. Admiral Lisa Turner's fleet had been waiting in the outer solar system for exactly this moment. The battle was swift and decisive. The Empire's ships designed for fighting weak opponents could not handle coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Their slow recharging weapons and weak shields were no match for human technology that had been specifically designed to counter them. Within 6 hours, the Empire's main fleet was either destroyed or surrendered. High Admiral Zexhan's flagship drifted powerless in space, its crew preparing to be boarded by human marines. On Zephyr Prime, Emperor Thalandar received the news of his fleet's destruction with growing panic. In one day, the Empire had lost over 2,000 ships, nearly half their total military strength. Your Majesty, his remaining advisors told him, we are receiving surrender offers from 17 of our subject worlds. 3 more have declared independence. The humans are broadcasting messages throughout the galaxy. telling everyone that the Empire can be defeated. The Emperor sat on his throne, staring at reports of rebellions breaking out across his territory. How could this happen? How could one primitive planet destroy us? Back in Earth's solar system, Admiral Sandra Phillips stood on her bridge watching the last Zephyrian ships surrender. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, we're receiving a message from the Empire's home territory. Emperor Thalandar wants to negotiate a peace treaty." Sandra smiled. "Tell him we'll consider it. But first, he has to free every enslaved species in his territory and disarm his remaining fleets." As she looked out at the thousands of human and allied ships filling space around Earth, Sandra felt proud of what they had accomplished. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and violence for 3,000 years. That reign of terror was finally over. The humans had shown the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could fall if their opponents were smart enough, patient enough, and determined enough to fight back. And it had all started